Good morning, friends. Today we are going to cover topic 5, animal nutrition again. And let's do a recap of what are the things that you will be learning in this unit. So we're going to talk about the human diet, mainly about how to test for the major components of the human diet, and we actually did this in the previous lesson. Also going to look into human alimentary canal involving in the processing of the food, but that won't be anything to do with today's lesson, because today we are actually going to talk about the components of the human diet. So let's do a quick recap session. Remember that we had some recommended prior knowledge. So we had to talk about chemical elements existing. So these chemical elements are the elements that you can actually find in your periodic table, and it can actually be found in your body and also in your food. We also needed to know that chemical energy is contained within larger organic molecules. Remember that organic molecules are molecules that can be found in living things, and chemical energy is actually stored inside the bonds. So the bonds that are in between the molecules itself and also in between bigger molecules. So these are in between each particle or atoms here. And in bigger molecules, there are more bonds, therefore there are more chemical energy stored. You needed to know the knowledge about enzymes and enzyme action. And if you remember enzyme action in terms of the lock and key hypothesis, and also how substrates can fit into enzymes to form that enzyme substrate complex. And when you get an enzyme substrate complex, that's when a reaction can occur. So these enzyme action, we learned about digestive enzymes a little bit and how digestive enzymes can break down these large organic molecules, like the one you can find in this polypeptide chain, into smaller molecules, like this one right here is an amino acid. And the amino acid is the one that your body actually processes. Number 4 is a simple understanding of the circulatory system. So the circulatory system is a system that is made up of different tissues and organs, and the main function of it is to transport substances. So you have your heart right there. So your heart is used to pump blood, and inside the blood is actually a lot of things that are dissolved. So there's mainly water in your blood and red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets, and also dissolved nutrients in there. So the red blood cells, what they do is that they carry these oxygen molecules that they get from the lungs, transported to all of the cells in your body. The blood actually goes through your digestive system as well, and that's where all your nutrient food, like your amino acids, will actually dissolve in the blood, and it can be transported to all parts of your body where it's needed. If you are the type that works out a lot and builds a lot of muscle, then those amino acids can be sent to your muscles. They're going to build more muscle cells, hence making you a bit more bulkier. So we talked about 5.1 nutrients and the learning objective A and B, and we looked at the chemical elements that make up carbohydrates, which is CHO, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and it's the same with fat, CHO. The main difference between these is the fact that their ratio of hydrogen to oxygen is different. The ratio of hydrogen and oxygen is 2:1 in carbohydrates. That's why they're called carbohydrate. Carbo as in they have carbon, and hydrate as in the ratio between hydrogen and oxygen. Whereas in fat, you can see that the ratio of hydrogen to oxygen, you have much more higher hydrogen than oxygen. Proteins are made up of the chemical elements carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and also nitrogen and sulfur. So how we remember this is CHO, and CHONS. We also covered this learning objective, which is to describe tests for starch, reducing sugars, protein, and fat. For carbohydrates, we have the polysaccharide, starch, and we use iodine solution for that. And for reducing sugars, we use Benedict solution. Remember that reducing sugars does not include sucrose. For proteins, we use Bio-Red reagent, and for fats, we use ethanol emulsion test. Now let's look at 5.1 nutrients, learning objective C. So learning objective 5C that you can find in your syllabus guide, it states to list out the principal sources of and describe the dietary importance of. What do we mean by principal sources? Sources means where you can actually find these nutrients. Principal means that the major component is actually the nutrients that you're trying to look for. And dietary importance is to give reasons to why we actually need these nutrients in our body. So we need to look at carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamins, but only C and D, mineral salts, only calcium and iron, fiber, aka roughage, and water. So we need to talk about where can we find all of these nutrients, and also why are they important for our body. So the steps to success today is to list out the main sources for each nutrient, where can we find them, and list out the main importance of these nutrients to our human body. Let's look at carbohydrates. Carbohydrate molecules contain energy, and that is their main importance, which is actually released in cells as the molecules are broken down during cellular respiration. Remember that cellular respiration is a process that happens within the cells itself. It's not breathing. Breathing is just exhaling and inhaling, which is the exchange of gases. But cellular respiration is when you break down the food, especially carbohydrates, to produce energy. So this process happens in the mitochondria of your cells. Where can we find carbohydrates? So there are two types of carbohydrates we're going to look at, which is the polysaccharide, the bigger ones. And for human beings, we get it from starch, like potatoes, cereals, rice, beans and peas, and yam. Whereas the sugars, like your simple sugars, or your monosaccharides and disaccharides, you get it from honey, sugarcane, and fruits. Now let's look at fats. Why are fat important? Fat molecules contain much more energy than carbohydrate, and they are important because they are stored in the skin and around the kidneys. So they actually help to prevent heat from escaping, for example, if they're stored in the skin, and also help your internal organs from receiving shock. So they also insulate shock. The main sources of fat is fat in meat, in dairy food, in egg yolk, in avocado, and in nuts. So fat mainly can be found in eggs, which is just the egg yolk part. Protein is very important for growth and repair. Main sources of protein are meat, peas and beans, fish, like in sushi, egg white, and peanut. Vitamin C is a very important vitamin for healthy gums and teeth. Vitamin C is also called ascorbic acid. The main sources of vitamin C are citrus fruits, like lemon and oranges, and also cabbage. Vitamin D is another important vitamin for the human body. It is used to uptake calcium from the gut for strong bone and teeth formation. Vitamin D is also called calciferol. Main sources of vitamin D are fresh liver, egg yolk, and actually the action of sun on the skin. So we talked a bit about calcium just now. Vitamin D helps to uptake calcium. That means it helps to absorb calcium into your body. Calcium is used for healthy bones and teeth, and also for muscle action and blood clotting. Blood clotting happens when, for example, you have damage on the surface of your skin or even internally. So what happens is that your body responds with this clotting mechanism to heal the wounds. The main sources of calcium is flour and milk. Iron is a mineral, and I think you might know why this is important. It is for the formation of hemoglobin, the oxygen-carrying red pigment in red blood cells. The main sources of iron are liver, red meat, and also spinach. Fiber or roughage is made up of largely cellulose from cell walls of plants. Cellulose is a polysaccharide, and it is an insoluble carbohydrate. This means that they do not dissolve in water. Remember that polysaccharides are divided into three. You have starch, which is used for energy, glycogen, which is the storage of sugars in your muscles and also your liver, and cellulose. So cellulose is the component that makes up the cell wall of plants. And where can you find a lot of cell walls? In plant material, like fruits and vegetables. Why do we need fiber in our diet? It's to form the bulk in the intestines. So it helps to give the muscles of your intestines to push something against, and also helps to prevent constipation. The main sources of fiber are fruit, vegetables, and nuts. Now we have water. Water is super important because it acts as a solvent for chemicals in the body. And remember that our body has a metabolism, which is the sum of all the chemical reactions in our body. This also includes the action of enzymes. So enzymes need to be in the solvent for it to actually act on. So it needs to have this chemical reaction, and it needs to have water. It's also a medium for all chemical reactions to occur, and also helps you to cool the body temperature. So it helps to control your body temperature too. Water makes up 68% of your body mass. Also, just so you know, your blood is made up of 70% of water as well. Main sources of water are drinks. So this is any drink that you guys take, and also all sorts of food, like fruits, veggies, even meat as well. And that covers the learning objective of today, and I'll see you next lesson.